Hello everyone, I'm Bridget Baggett with Career Innovations. This is the recorded version of Managing Challenging Employees. I'm the Director of Recruiting as well as the HR consultant with Career Innovations. Career Innovations is a staffing and recruiting firm. We do recruiting and headhunting for various industries. We primarily work with startups, small to medium-sized companies in the industry of either IT, engineering, healthcare. We actually have also taken on positions in sales and marketing. So today I really appreciate your time in joining us on covering managing challenge employees. This is going to be about a 45-minute to an hour session. Afterwards, there is a survey that you can take regardless if you attended the live or the recorded version. The Prezi slides will also be sent to you in the form of a link. You can click on that and you can actually see this presentation as well. And we'll go ahead and get started. As we know that supervising other people is never easy. You're going to have employees that are going to make your job difficult. These challenging employees can try your patience. They can drain a lot of time and energy out of you. And they can turn skillful tasks into a nightmare. So you definitely want to be proactive in your management style and nip this in the bud early in the stages. Today we are going to talk about the different problems that challenging employees can present. We're also going to talk about strategies on handling difficult employees as well. What we're going to cover, we're going to be identifying challenges associated with supervising difficult employees. We're going to understand how to manage our own feelings effectively. We're going to help to create a positive work environment for all. Focus on the problems and not personalities, and we're going to respond positively to challenging employees and treat them fairly. So let's look at some of the challenges that we face. In the live presentation, I take a poll, and the poll is pretty much to see from the audience point of view the current problems that they're dealing with today. So I actually have a poll going, and I ask them what is their biggest challenge, or what are some of the difficulties that they're dealing with within their employees and their staff. And it's a multiple choice poll, and you can actually pick from different choices that I have there. But here I can tell you the most common problems that I see organizations face. We have the complainers, we have the people that are the goof offs, very entertaining, and they can be very disruptive throughout the entire process. You have people that refuse to cooperate, break all the rules, bad attitude, the know-it-all, gossip, the ones that create rumors throughout the organization. And then you have some that just simply display anger, that are pretty much displeased with anything that you offer, and that also includes solutions as well. Most of these employees have lemons, but they don't want lemonade. They put a negative spin on everything the management does. Anything that they do seems unimportant. They really not interested in changing. They really create a downward spiral environment for employees that are actually trying to be productive. The climate of the environment starts to change and gears towards failure. They undermine your authority. They pretty much create a hostile work environment, and they waste everyone's time. So you definitely want to, when you see these characteristics, you definitely want to address this up front, because this behavior can be counterproductive and sometimes destructive to your entire corporate culture. First thing we want to look at is pretty much the basics. Everyone should have a policy in place, and it goes back to, what does your policy say? Your policy should be covering yourself. It should be covering your organization on a legal aspect and on an ethical aspect. Most organizations have a policy in place, as far as like a zero tolerance policy. There are other names for it that are out there, but the bottom line, you do need to have a policy in place. Your policy should provide your organization, again, with legal protection. It gives the formula to document successful disciplinary actions that you would take if the policy is not enforced. The policy reinsures the vast majority of your employees that have no disciplinary problems, the consequences of breaking the rules. It protects your employees from unsafe, inappropriate behavior, unethical actions. You really want to have a policy in place, and your policy should be implemented from the get-go. This is something that should be incorporated in your hiring process. When you're onboarding through orientation with new hires, you really need to have this policy in place and acknowledged by all employees, including your executive level employees. And when you have this policy in place, you want to lead by example. You want to show that you're living this policy out. The worst thing that employees can see, especially the ones that are offenders, is to see their management or their supervisor or fellow co-workers are doing the exact same behavior and nothing's being done. So you definitely want to lead by example and follow through on enforcing your policy throughout your organization. Next thing we're going to talk about is discipline in the law. It's pretty much a formal call to action. You want to have one in place. You want to make sure that you're abiding by all the laws, you're being compliant. State and federal equal opportunity laws, your EEO prohibits discrimination in any aspect of employment, and this also includes disciplinary action. This means you cannot discipline anyone on the basis of an employee's race, color, national origin, religion, age, sex, or disability. The laws also require consistency and fairness across the board, which means that you can't discipline one person but then you ignore someone else that pretty much has the same offense. You want to make sure everything is consistent and fair, because if you don't, employees can retaliate. You want to make sure that you have something in place that protects people that do complain, either for union activity, whistleblowing, or anything similar like this, because if you try to retaliate against an employee that, may be a whistleblower or anything like this, of course, that's illegal. Again, these are people that have laws that protect them in place if they do want to reach out and disclose something about the organization that may be inappropriate. And you don't want to have a wrongful termination lawsuit on your hands. So you definitely want to make sure that you are enforcing your policy and you're doing it in a lawful manner. Finally, employees that do believe they're treated unfairly, again, they can seek out a wrongful discharge lawsuit against you. And that's why it's very, very important and crucial to have a paper trail. A paper trail is going to provide you legal protection. It assures your good employees that they are protected. It also puts potential offenders on notice. Protects employees across the board for inappropriate actions of coworkers, and it gives violators the opportunity to improve. So you do want to make sure everything is being documented. When I say documented, you need to have these things on file for at least a year on the actions that you've taken, the actions that you plan to take, what has improved, what hasn't improved. Because at the end of the day, if the employee has to be terminated because of their behavior, you will have a paper trail in place showing what you've done from the start. So make sure that you do have some type of formal plan or some type of formal process in place on how you're keeping notes, how you're keeping records, and how long you're going to keep those on file. Next, we're going to look at some of the top challenges that companies and organizations face, and we're also going to talk about some of the solutions that you can implement within your organizations for these types of actions that you see with difficult employees. The first one, I think that a lot of companies are dealing with this a lack of cooperation as well as attendance. When you have a lack of cooperation, this is pretty much a big problem because it brings down the entire morale of your organization. You have someone that's not a team player, and when you have someone that you have to carry because they do not want to cooperate, it brings down the entire workflow. Projects miss deadlines, things don't get complete, and it pretty much makes your organization look bad. There's no cohesiveness. So you want to make sure that you are pulling this person aside and you're giving them a verbal warning. You're telling them, you're actually giving them the big picture. Explain what you expect from your employees. Explain that you expect their cooperation. You want to make sure you're telling your employees that cooperation is one of the points in which their performance is evaluated. Raises and promotions are based on their cooperative attitude and behavior. Whenever an employee fails to cooperate, again, take them aside, point out, this isn't something that we can co-sign on. Also show how their behavior is affecting the team. A lot of people, when they act out or lack thereof, they don't understand how it's a domino effect. They don't understand that your particular action is preventing your coworkers to complete a task at hand. And when they don't complete the task at hand, this is what happens. So let them see the bigger picture. Let them see how they play a pertinent role in your company's success, because some people may not feel that that they're valued. They may not feel that their position or the work they're doing has any type of contribution to the company. So sometimes they have to be reminded that you are an asset. They are an asset to your organization, and let them know that the work that they do and the work that they don't do affects the corporation as a whole, or affects your organization as a whole. Again, you want to evaluate the behavior. You want to consult with the employees to let them know. Ask for an explanation. And I think the communication is key. And there may be some underlying issues that the employee is dealing with that may be a link to why they're not cooperative. So ask for an explanation. Ask why their behavior is being disruptive. Ask why they're not completing their assignments. Again, remind your employees they're a part of a team, and as I said again, show how their behavior is affecting others. The next one is attendance. Attendance is also a big one. I'm pretty sure everyone has some type of attendance policy in place. They have some type of expectation that they expect from all their employees regarding showing up to work on time. Make sure that's been reviewed by all your employees. And this is one that I think that also lead by example is pretty much prominent in this area. You cannot ask your employees to be on time and to get back from their lunch on time if you as a manager are not walking in those footsteps. It's very hard for an employee to have as their philosophy is, do what I say, not what I do. And a lot of supervisors and managers have that philosophy. Do what I say, not what I do type of mentality. And that can be shown through a lot of attendance. And most employees retaliate, well, my manager doesn't come in on time, or they're taking 2-hour lunch break. So, this shouldn't be an issue. So you definitely want to iterate. Attendance is very, very important, and you want to lead by example. Besides that, you want to discuss the problem and find the root cause. There may be a logical explanation on why this person is showing up to work late. This may have a logical explanation why they're not returning to lunch on time. So you definitely want to discuss the problem, find out the root cause. Be flexible. If there's something that you can actually deal with, say if the particular employee is late to work because they have daycare issues or they have child care issues, maybe you can be flexible. Maybe you can give them a pass to come in certain days a little bit later than others so they can be able to meet their family obligations. So you also want to be flexible if you can find out what the root cause is. Explain the consequences of their behavior. Let them know, if this continues to happen, these are the consequences that we're going to have to implement if we do not see any type of improvement in your attendance. So let them know where you stand with the attendance policy. Make sure they review the attendance policy. And also, if it comes to the point where you do have to implement consequences, make sure they have the policy on hand. So if you have to re-give them the policy, or maybe this was something that you gave to them in their onboarding process, give them another copy of the policy, and just remind them of the expectations that you're looking for in their behavior. You have no intentions of letting them to get away with unacceptable behavior. And again, this goes across the board. It goes back with being consistent. So you definitely want to make sure that if you're reprimanding one person for attendance, that a coworker is not displaying the same behavior and they're getting away with it. This happens especially in larger organizations where favoritism comes into play, and you have some employees that pretty much can do whatever they want. And I've seen this a lot in the sales and marketing arena, where you have one person where if they're hitting their goals and they're doing what they're supposed to do to make the company profitable, the rules don't apply to them. And I've seen it across the board, and that really creates very low morale within your organization, because they feel that one employee is not getting reprimanded while somebody else is. So that can really shape your corporate culture in a negative way. So you want to make sure that you're being consistent and fair across the board. Next thing that we see is poor performance. Again, it goes back to understanding the underlying issues with poor performance, especially if you have an employee that's always been superb in their work, always had great work ethic, and then you see the turn for the worse. You see them either being late with assignments, they're not even completing assignments. You want to, again, communicate with that employee to see if there's some type of root cause involved, and understand the underlying issues with that employee's performance. And don't always put it on the employee. Take a step back and see, are we giving these employees the tools and the resources to do their job? You also have to look at it in an analytical and logical way as well, especially if they've taken on a new role, if they've gotten a new title, if they've been transitioning into a new position. Take a step back and say, are there unclear expectations? Do they have any direction? So you want to make sure the employees know what's expected from them, know what things that need to be done and completed. Also see if there's a lack of training in any area. Again, this is a dialogue that can be started just by asking them if they're having a problem with an area in a particular area. Do we need to address this with training? Do you need a refresher course in something? Especially in the IT world, where technology is changing pretty much on a monthly and daily basis. There's always a new technology out there, a new way to do things, a new way to integrate things, and things change. And someone that could do a process last year, may find it difficult this year because the technology has changed. Maybe they need retraining in a particular area. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not the cause of their poor performance. You want to make sure they have the resources and they have the tools in place so they can improve their performance. Make sure there's not any type of workplace conflict. A lot of time performance can be affected if they're not getting along with a team or with the coworker in which they're working on a project with. Conflicts with your coworkers may result in poor performance problems. You want to make sure that those are resolved. You also want to make sure that the work that they're doing matches their competency. This could easily be resolved by just reassigning them something that matches with their skill set. So you definitely want to reevaluate the skill set of the individual and see if the work that you're giving to them, or the assignments or the tasks that you're assigning to them, matches what they can actually do. Poor performance definitely can be reflected in receiving work that they just are not competent in. So that, again, that falls on the organization's shoulders to reevaluate the employees, see if anything's changed in their workflow, and address that either with tools to get them up to date or up to speed with the workload, either with training so they can match the skill set with the task at hand, or just plain old reassignment of assignments so they can be able to reach those goals that you're setting for them. Poor performance also can be a poor attitude. Just it can also be related to just a bad outlook on anything, especially if someone is working on a project that they have no type of confidence in. It's like trying to put together something that you know that's not going to work. So you want to make sure the person is working on something that they are confident in, they actually know that's going to be a successful. You'll actually see this in a marketing arena. If they're putting together a campaign that they may feel that may be a flop. You know, they're wasting their time. Their attitude towards the project is just non-existent. You know, they don't think it's going to be a success, so why should I put all my energy into something that I know that's not going to be successful? You want to make sure you can at least alter their attitude about it, even if you cannot change the project. Of course, you don't want to feel that you have to change projects or assignments based on how the employees view them, but you definitely want to be able to change their outlook on it. So even if they may not agree with the success of the project, at least try to have them see the bigger picture on how this can affect, again, their performance, their raises, their promotion, and base it on what's in it for them at the end of the day. So like someone said, if you can't change your situation, change your attitude. So you definitely want to make sure that you can refocus them into something that's going to be geared for what's in it for them once the project is completed. Personal issues. You want to also make sure that there's personal issues that are addressed, as far as if there's any health issues, personal finance or family issues. Again, a lot of people do not walk around with their personal problems on their sleeve. Person may be going through a divorce that you may not know about. Someone may be going through a custody battle you may not know about. Someone may have been diagnosed with the illness you may not know about. A lot of people don't broadcast their personal issues. So make sure that you're very empathetic when it comes to personal issues. You want to make sure you're at least communicating the problem. You're showing that you understand what they're going through. And first and foremost, you want to offer some solutions. If there is a legitimate either family medical issue, or they have a personal medical health issue that they're going through, recommend FMLA. See if they qualify for taking some leave off so they can address those issues. You don't want someone that's going to be coming into work that's going to be unproductive, have poor performance, have a bad attitude, and bring down your entire organization. So if they're going through something that you have a solution for, definitely offer that as a solution. You do want to offer counseling. If you can't direct them to your HR department, or if you are the HR department, hopefully you have some resources in place, some third-party resources in place that you can actually render to these employees that may be going through personal issues as far as health problems, financial problems, and things of that nature. And we all are human. We've all been down the road where we know someone that has gone through a custody battle, or we know someone that's gone through a divorce, or we know someone that's been, diagnosed with an ailment that's going to be inhibiting them from working a full-time position. We've been there. Either we've gone through it or we know someone close to us that has. So you want to make sure that you can relate to that and show that you're very sincere when you're offering solutions. And it really gets down to knowing what the problem is. Of course, you don't have to directly come out and ask, but you also want to make sure that they're willing to at least give you what the problem is so you can offer a solution. You're not looking for details. You're just looking for, what can I do to make this better? And at the end of the day, when you look at performance issues, it may just boil down to some employees may not be happy. It also may be boiled down to there may not be a challenge. That goes back to poor performance. It also goes back to attendance. When you deal with problems where you have unsatisfied employees, you have employees that feel that their position no longer has a challenge, it is your duty to find out what you can implement in your company to make those employees happy. Because if not, you're going to end up having a retention problem. Some of the the problems that I pointed out today are also red flags for employees that are looking for employment elsewhere, especially if they're in a role that they feel that's no longer challenging. They feel that they're doing work that feels that's not bringing them any type of enjoyment or value to their life. They start to emotionally tap out. And people usually emotionally tap out of their position before they physically tap out. It's like being in a relationship. A lot of times people emotionally tap out their relationship before they actually physically call it quits. And people do this with their jobs as well. And you'll start to see people that are on the prowl looking for new employment. They're late. Their performance either is non-existent or very, very poor because they've already tapped out of their position and they're looking for employment elsewhere. So you definitely want to consider your retention rate when you are dealing with difficult employees. They may also be looking for a way out of your organization through employment elsewhere. The last one I want to talk about is your anger and disruptive behavior. You really want to find the cause to that. Some people are angry. They're very pessimistic. They very really find the negative in everything. You want to talk to this employee and find out what's causing the anger. Again, explain that the behavior is upsetting coworkers. Show them the big picture on how this relates to the organization, how their behavior is disrupting other people's workflow. If the employee is unable to control their anger or fails to understand the problem, I highly recommend that you give them some type of professional help, or give them some sources where they can get professional help. The reason is that you have to remember that it's your responsibility as a manager, as a supervisor, as an executive to provide your employees with a safe work environment at the end of the day. Employees who make threats or act out physically need to be disciplined appropriately, and hopefully you have some type of violence prevention policy in place. So you definitely want to make sure that you're holding your end of the bargain by providing a safe environment for your other employees. You want to encourage mutual respect. You want to be a role model for professional behavior. Provide positive feedback and praise at every opportunity that you have. People need to know that they're valued and appreciated. Not only the difficult employees, but your overall staff needs to know that they're valued and appreciated. Some people act out because they feel that there's no efforts being made, that they're appreciated by your organization. You want to give your employees adequate support, provide the resources they need to meet standards and requirements, and you also need to be very stern and firm with your disciplinary actions. So you want to make sure that this is what we expect and these are the consequences. And you don't want to flip-flop on that, because once you do, your credibility is being challenged. And like I said, I think communication is the key. You want to give examples, offer suggestions, and above all, you want to avoid criticism. You want to make sure when you are providing suggestions, you're relaying it in a way that they're seeing the bigger picture. It's not that you're putting the blame on them, you're showing them how this affects everyone. So I really think that avoiding criticism is very, very high on my communication chart, because once you start to criticize, people start to, put up their defenses. And when you start putting up your defenses, you're no longer listening. Like they said, you want for them to listen to understand. But most people, when their defenses are up, they're listening to reply. So you definitely want to make sure that you're giving them the feedback that's going to be positive in a way that they can change their behavior. It starts with yourself. It really starts with being honest with yourself. I think that before you can implement any proactive measures, you want to be honest with yourself and make sure that you're putting these consequences in place and putting these proactive measures in place based on objective information. We're all human. We can't take the human element out of us. So you really want to make sure that you're asking yourself these questions when you are trying to discipline a difficult employee. Are you feeling angry at the employee? Are you disencouraged by the situation? Have you been butting heads with this employee? You don't want to take your anger out on an employee just because this particular individual rubs you the wrong way. You want to be objective as possible. Again, have you ignored performances or other problems in the past with other employees? You want to make sure that you're evaluating the employee's performance and behavior by truly objective standards. And there you're taking out the element of subjectivity that's involved. You want to make sure your judgments about the employee have not been clouded by the fact that you really just don't like the person. You want to make sure that you're taking your emotions out of the situation. You want to get your emotions in check, so when you do work with these employees, you can find professional solutions, not what you think, not how you feel. And like I tell people, you don't have to like someone to work with them. It's business. So you definitely want to be able to take the element of I don't like this person out of the equation. You want to be very uniform and consistent across the board. You don't want to seem like you're zeroing in on a particular employee just because, like I said, they rubbed you the wrong way. You just get this feeling about them. You don't want to do that. Again, that's grounds for either lawful termination or discrimination. So you definitely want to be able to take your emotions out of it and view everything from an objective point of view. At the end of the day, you want to focus on problems, not personalities. Take a step back, put your professional hat on, look at the person and their behavior, and you want to look at the problem at hand. So you want to focus on a specific behavior and not attitudes. Identify specific reasons why behavior or attitude is a problem. Example, some of the things that I talked about: productivity, poor performance. Think solely in terms of the job and work. Again, be objective, avoid subjective judgments about the person. Try not to get hung up on personality traits. Write a brief report. Again, you want to be able to document everything on through an objective point of view. So make sure that you are documenting everything, you are creating your paper trail. And again, don't take it personal. It's business. And that's what I put on this slide. A lot of people take a lot of things personally, and you should not. You should be taking a step back and looking at this as objective as possible and know that this is business. Be proactive. It may be some individuals that are listening to this recording that may have either little to none challenging employees, but you still want to be proactive in your approach. You want to have some type of protocol in place on how to deal with challenging employees as a preventative measure. Again, you want to be proactive, not reactive. You want to know the problems challenging employees can create. You want to know how to examine your own feelings, how to create a positive work environment. You want to be consistent and non-biased, and give clear expectations and clear consequences to all your employees. Be firm. State your willingness to help. Agree on an action plan. So if you do pull an employee aside that you do need to talk to, I think that you should also come together with some type of plan in place to make this thing move forward in a positive way and have some type of resolution. So you definitely want to agree on an action plan, and you want to stay focused, which means do not get sidetracked again with personality traits. Do not get sidetracked with emotional things that may be going on. You want to keep this very, very objective. You want to understand how to create a positive environment. You want to re-examine your own feelings and get those in check. One thing you also want to do, you want to consider the employee side. And I threw this in here because the reason why I think that a lot of organizations may look at it as, they're a difficult employee, but you also want to be empathetic and realize that some employees may have legitimate issues going on. They may have legitimate concerns about their job procedure. They may have a legitimate concern about the resources that are in place to do their job. They may be experiencing stress. They may be not getting along or being as cohesive as they can with their coworkers. So you definitely want to consider the employee side of the story. You want to give a fair hearing. You want to investigate. Hopefully you have some type of procedures in place on how to investigate an employee's complaints. You also want to have some resources in place to offer as solutions. So you do want to consider what they have to say. You don't want to automatically write everything off as this is just a employee acting out. You want to really take their concern seriously, look into their concern, and see if there's any type of validity to what they're doing. And like I said, it goes back to if someone has poor performance because they just aren't competent in the assignments, that's a legitimate excuse. Figure out ways, how can we get this person back up to speed? At the end of the day, what you're really trying to do, you're really trying to build a relationship. You're trying to build trust and confidence in your employees. You're trying to get them to come to you with any problems that they're experiencing. So this way is eliminating any employees acting out. So you want to build trust and confidence. And the way that you can do this is actually having face-to-face sessions. Some way, somehow, try to have some one-on-one time with your employees. Sit down, talk to them about their day, talk to them about their work process and their workflow. Be proactive in asking them, are there any challenges that they're currently facing? So this way they won't have the time to act out through poor performance or attendance. So this way you're being proactive and you're building that trust and that confidence, not only as you as a manager, but your overall organization. And that right there is building your brand inward out. So you definitely want to make sure that you're having your employees be that shining star for your organization. And the way that you can do that is just by asking them, how's your day going? Really taking a sincere approach to figuring out what problems exist before they start to surface and bring down your organization. Some people think a solution is just firing them. Well, why don't we just fire them? That'll get rid of them. I'm going to tell you, firing a difficult employee should be your very, very, very last resort. Should be something that you only have to implement when needed. It's very difficult when you fire someone because of disciplinary actions. You open yourself up to, like I said, wrongful discharge lawsuits, wrongful termination lawsuits. And you have to look at the cost of firing someone as well. And remember, even the most difficult workers can often be turned around with some patience and the right approach. You want to consider the time it costs for recruiting, hiring, training, replacement. In the long run, it's usually more cost efficient to spend that time trying to turn a problem employee around. Again, you got to take into account that there's unemployment compensation benefits to account for. The worst, the cost for fighting a discriminatory or wrongful termination lawsuit. Firing overall affects your organization morale. When someone gets displaced in your organization, your whole company feels that. It's a ripple effect. So you do not want to put your productive employees in a place where they're feeling unsecure, and they start reaching out to other opportunities to secure employment elsewhere. So you don't want to put that uncertainty in other employees' minds through a termination. Of course, if you're having a difficult employee that's putting your safety at risk, putting your environment at risk, by all means, I can understand, especially if it's going along with your procedures and your protocol. But I really think that working with your employees first should be your first call of action. And you want to have a follow-up plan in place. You want to make sure that the solutions that you're implementing are not just a temporary fix. I definitely would ramp up your reward and loyalty program, especially if you do not even have one in place. You definitely should look at investing in one and implementing some type of loyalty and reward program. You want to keep a positive outlook on everything that's been implemented thus far. Make any type of appropriate suggestions, and I think that patience is the key. Make sure the situation has really been resolved. Ask for positive feedback from the employees. Make sure that you're pointing out any remaining problems that they need to deal with. Again, I think that positive reinforcements comes first. Make sure that you're telling them what has been resolved, what have you seen improvement in, and then you can suggest where other things need to be worked on. Continue to monitor the situation until you're sure that the problem or the issue has totally changed and it's actually a permanent solution. Follow up with your human resource representative or your human resource manager to make sure everything has been documented in that employee's record. In case that anything should happen furthermore with the employee, you can have some documentation to refer back to. Again, I think that follow-up is key. You don't want to think that you're doing all this implementation, this coaching in vain. You want to make sure the processes that you're implementing actually are bearing fruit and giving you the results that you're looking for. This way that you can duplicate your efforts in case you have another problem similar to this that you have to deal with. Again, if you don't have a reward or loyalty program, I really think that's something that you could look into. We're going to be doing a workshop on implementing a reward and loyalty program sometime in the 2014, I want to say first quarter, and I'll definitely keep everyone up to date with that. But I really think that a reward and loyalty program is very key. So some of the key points to remember, so if you walk away with anything, just remember never to ignore the problem. You know, when you ignore the problem, it becomes a cancer. It starts to spread out of control. So you definitely don't want to ignore the problem. You want to manage your feelings, make sure that you are addressing everything objective, create a positive work environment for the employees that are putting in the effort to keep the organization moving. Focus on the problems and not personalities, and use positive reinforcement strategies. Okay, it's me. I'm Bridget with Career Innovations. This is my direct email address, bbaggett@career-innovate.com. After listening to the recording, if you do have any questions or concerns, definitely shoot me an email directly. I'd be happy to assist you in any way. This is my direct line number. My extension is 101. Please connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. Again, you have my email address, so please connect with me. You can go to our website directly and look up at any upcoming events. We're going to be updating our calendar soon, so you definitely see new events coming out. Sign up for our newsletter. That's the best way that you can keep up to date with all the events that are going on. Again, at the end of this, we have a survey. If you're listening to the recording, you can definitely just look at the survey that also be included with the recording that you can click on and take, and shoot out some topics. You can also email me directly if you have some topics that you'll love for us to cover. If that's all, I really appreciate your time. Talk to you soon, and hopefully we'll connect on LinkedIn. Have a great day. Bye.